Good afternoon to all of you. I hope I am audible in the online. So we have discussed the Anthro paper 1 of the year 2025, and in today's session we are going to cover the Anthro paper 2 for the year 2025. So in this session we are going to see only the approach, like how we can deal with the demand of the question. As I earlier told you that from the last 2 years, in the year 2023, in the year 2024, we have seen that UPSC, they have taken an indirect route while asking the question. In today's paper also you will see that there are not exactly they are asking us some current events or something, but they are asking us related to the explanation or application of those concepts. So that is basically going to be now the focus, that how to deal with the demand of the question. After that we are also going to have the discussion for the model answer. So we will be having separate discussion for the paper 1 and paper 2 in terms of the model answer, and the PDF for that model answer after that discussion you can get while filling up the form. Fine. So in today's lecture we are just going to see what is basically the approach to deal with those questions. Fine. Now, as I told you, the approach to deal with the paper 1, it was different, and for the paper 2 it is going to be different. Why it is different and in what way? See, the pattern of the paper 2 for anthropology, it is somehow related to the GS type. So the kind of topic like we have to study in Indian anthropology, the Indian population, the population growth, then we have to study about the impact of the different religion, that is also having overlapping with our GS paper, then to study about the Indian villages, the globalization, and we have to study something about the globalization, the green revolution, the village reforms, the land reforms, and after that the tribal welfare schemes, the developmental schemes. So these topics, they are more or less similar to the GS, and they are having a complete overlapping with your GS paper 1 Indian society and your GS paper 3 economics, as well as the GS paper 2 vulnerable section social justice, and also some of the part related to governance. So now how we can create separate or different answer then to the GS. This is something as a challenge, as well as something as giving us undue advantage as well, because being in for the optional we are studying something specific, and for GS we would be having something specific. Fine. So before that I just want to tell you the approach in general, and in what terms you need to deal with the paper 2 questions. Fine. So first let's try to understand that particular thing. Now, a basic module or the basic thing, you know that there should be introduction, then there should be a body, and then conclusion. The pros for the paper 2 is that it is generic. Even if you don't know specific or particular, still you can manage the answer. So first is this. Second, the cons for this paper is that this paper seems to be very lengthy. I mean, this paper is actually very lengthy. The 2025 paper, some of the students who are studying for the UPSC, they are saying that ma'am, paper was very simple. Yes, I can admit that. But when you will sit for writing and when you will start writing, you will feel that paper actually was very lengthy. The kind of pressure when you are holding that what to write, what not to write, this dilemma is the one which is causing the delay, and that's why this paper was lengthy. Now, have this theme in your mind, that if you are dealing with the question of the paper 2, then there are 3 sections, you know very well. One is being considered as Indian anthropology, another one as the tribal India, and another one as archaeology. So if there is any question that is related to the archaeology, then what you should write in the introduction. If the question is from archaeology from the paper 2 and you have to start with the question, then introduction, it should be fact based. do not write anything from your side, just write the fact based information for the archaeology question. And in terms of the body it should also be informative. And I would say one more thing, while deciding which question to focus and what to attempt, for that just focus upon that if you know about that question, then attempt it, then choose it. If you don't know about the fact and information, then avoid choosing the archaeology question, avoid choosing that. Fine. Okay, next, in the conclusion, majorly for the archaeology question, in terms of the conclusion, try to mention those things which would help us to study about the future generation or to serve the future generation for the studies. Means just mention the significance of studies, basically archaeo study, for coming generation. Anything could be that. It may be any tradition, it may be any sort of field, it may be any tool technique, or it may be any dating technique or dating method. Whatever you are having, what you need to do, you just need to mention the significance of that particular study, the significance of that particular tool technique tradition that will serve the upcoming generation, that would help us to know about them. So just mention that point in the conclusion and you are done. So always choose these questions only when you are very much aware of that particular topic, otherwise do not do that. Try to attempt any another question. Fine. Now let's focus. You are going to attempt the Indian Anthro question. There is any question related to the Indian anthropology, and that's what you need to study. Fine. Okay. So for Indian anthropology, what you can just mention in the introduction. Now there is a scope to do some sort of experiment. These questions, they depends upon, like these are specific question or these are general question. Except then the unit 3.1, all other units like, or the unit 3.3 as well. I will admit that the sacred complex and nature man spirit complex, for that if we have something specific only, then we can mention, otherwise not. Other than the unit 3.1 and 3.3, all other units for the Indian Anthro, they are generic. So in the introduction, either start with the example or start with the data. Data means you are providing any fact, figure. For example, there is any question about the significance of the village studies, then what you should mention? You should start with the 2001 or 2011 census, and then you need to mention that we are having more than 6 lakh villages and around 68.6% of the Indian population living in the villages. So this is the kind of fact you can start with. Let us suppose there is any question about the population growth or factors affecting population growth. So again you can start with the data. Now what is your task? Those who are watching this discussion, your task is just to analyze the questions as per the unit, and then based upon the unit create one page. So this is your task, and if you want to share that page with me, you can just fill up the form that is available in the description box, and in the while you will be filling the form, then there mention that want to connect with the Neha ma'am to show transcript for answer. Okay, so the team will connect you, the team will help you to connect with me. Okay, so do this exercise. Fine. So what you need to do, unit wise, like for example unit 2. So for the unit 2, create what should be basic way how I am going to start with the question. So for that you can start, like there are 2 sections for the unit 2. One is population growth, one is for the ethnic and the racial element. So ethnic and racial or linguistic element. So if the question is for the first half, how I am going to start my introduction, and if the question is for the second half, how I can start? Either I can start with any fact or with any example, or I can mention any Indologist name, or I can explain the basic meaning of that particular thing. Fine. So let us suppose they are asking about the village studies or something. I can explain the definition given by the Charles Metcalfe and the definition he gave for the studies of the villages. So we have so many other, like for example, if there is about the caste system, so I can explain about the Louis Dumont, or I can explain Henri Betley and their explanation regarding the caste. So this is what we need to do. Okay, now you are done with the introduction. After that you have to focus upon the body part. So the body part, it should be based upon the demand of the question. So for that you need to see the heading as per the demand of the question, and then you need to add upon the subheading. I am going to show you with the 2025 question paper. I will be showing you how to focus upon the heading and subheading. The kind of student that, as they are saying that the problem that they are facing while attempting the question or while writing the answer is that many of the students, they used to say that ma'am, we are not able to write, we are not able to start, and we are like confused when we start writing that what to write. So the solution for all these things, the solution for all these parts, it is only that if you will focus upon the demand, you will get the points because you have studied so much. Fine. So after mentioning the body like heading and subheading, it's purely dependent upon the question. Then in the conclusion, what you can mention. So for the conclusion, what you need to focus for the conclusion, you should give either any scheme name, I mean any government work, or you should mention any solution based program, that should be your focus for the Indian anthropology. That should be your focus for the Indian anthropology. And now this is your task, unit wise. You will decide what I would be writing for intro, for conclusion. One more thing, kindly do not do this blunder. So many of the students are coming to me and saying, ma'am, we have prepared our notes in question and answer format. Now we are not able to remember, we are not able to recall the things. See, why it's difficult to recall? It's difficult to recall because your mind is pressurized, is under burden, that how to remember that many introduction, that many conclusion, and then the body. And in the actual paper, question is on the different demand. So for that, what you need to do, you need to start preparation with the help of the indexes, with the help of the short notes, and as per the same stream, same series as UPSC had given in the syllabus. Now let's see what should be the approach for the tribal India. So for the tribal India, introduction surely should start with the data, and for that majorly focus upon the budget data regarding the scheme or any budget allocation, anything related to that, or either give ministry related verdict, fine. So like for tribal India, there is no need to explain something, either you can also mention the example. That should be your introduction. Now focusing upon the body part. So for the body part, it should be according to the demand of the question. So it should include the headings, subheadings, and accordingly. Now focusing upon the conclusion, what you need to do for the conclusion, your focus, it should be providing again any scheme name, some program that progressively government had done and benefited to the population, basically the tribal population. So here mention as many case studies as you can in the body part, and in the conclusion mention about any developmental program, any any government program, any sort of scheme that they have successfully did better from their side. Fine. So this is something that you need to do and how you are going to focus upon it. Fine. I hope you have understood that. Hanji, in the online, do you have any doubt regarding this? If you have any doubt, you like, this is an open session, you can share. Hanji, do you have any doubt? Now, there is going to be a very simple process. What you can do is, you can also have the pen and paper along with you, and then we will be focusing upon that this question is from which unit, and if it is from that particular unit, how we can focus. Can we take it this approach, or this approach? Fine. So it would help you to structure the answer, to structure the blueprint of the answer. Okay. Now let's see. So as we are starting the 2025 paper, you can see the first question as given by them. Write short note on the following in about 150 words each. So it's a 10 marker question. Already I have taken one series in which I have taught how to write the answer. In that particular series, I have told you that how much time you should devote for a 10 marker, for a 15 or for a 20 marker, as well as I have already given you the basic directives and the guidelines how and in what way to attempt the paper. First attempt the 20 marker, then 15 marker, and then 10 marker. So that should be the basic pattern you need to follow up. And the most importantly, the main theme is that how to choose the question, which question to choose, how to do that, that also need to be focused. Fine. Okay, now let's talk about the first question. It is Soanian cultural tradition. Fine. So as it seems to be having the archaeology, so as I told you, for the archaeology question you need to be very fact based, you need to be factually correct, and you have to be informed. You need to provide the information related to that. So here let's try to find out what we can do in the introduction and in the body part and then in the conclusion. Fine. So for the introduction, what we need to do? The approach is saying that I have to explain about this tradition and I need to mention any fact. What could be that fact? Fact could be the time period with which this culture is related, and maybe a thinker who had contributed for that study. And when, because it's an open-ended question, so it depends upon me what kind of material I can write under it. So either I can mention about the feature of this culture, what kind of methods they were having, what was the pattern of the living, everything. If I know about it, I can mention. If not this, I can also compare this culture with the other culture tradition. So these are the possibilities I have. Now it depends upon my memory, how many things I remember and how many things I can quote. So based upon the point, in terms of the introduction, what I need to mention, first I will mention about the Soanian culture, and when I would be explaining about the Soanian culture, I will be giving the reference of the H.D. Tera and T.T. Patterson, because they were the person who studied about the Siwalik region, and when they were studying about the Siwalik region, they used the method of stratigraphy. You know very well the stratigraphy, when you are studying the different layer of the rocks, and based upon the layer study you are telling the old and the new time period, not very specific, but based upon the timeline you are giving some overview. Fine. Other than this, we know that this Soanian culture tradition, it was belonging to the lower Paleolithic time period. So that's what also we are going to include. So we would be mentioning about the, first of all, here we would be mentioning about D. Tera, and like we are also it depends upon us that either we want to mention or not, but we can mention about Patterson, because they studied about the Siwalik stratigraphy. This is what that we are going to mention in the introduction. So once we are done with that, then we are going to explain about the time period. So it is related to the lower Paleolithic. Fine. So we had given some fact, and these facts, we cannot add on from our side. This is how it is. Now in the body part, what we need to do now, as I told you, it's an open-ended question. In the open-ended question, it depends upon you which information you know and which you can mention. So in the introduction, you can mention about the tool technique, like they were having some of the pebble stone, they were having the pebble tool traditions, they were using some flakes, they were using the choppers. So we can also create a diagram. Fine. So look, it's a 10 marker question. So for the 10 marker question, we would be having 2 pages. Fine. So if it is in terms of the 2 pages, then let us suppose this is your introduction, and from here you started your body. So here you have mentioned about the tool technique. Here prepare the diagram, either here, and if you don't want to prepare it here, then start writing, prepare the diagram here, then here also mention some point, and here the conclusion. That should be the overview of your question. Fine. And what you can mention in the conclusion, like how the conclusion should end. So conclusion, it should show some sort of help that this study is providing. So as I told you, this study, like the significance of the archaeological studies, like this stratigraphy and the study of the Soanian culture, how it is helping us. This study is helping us to know about the adaptability of those persons. So mention about the significance for the adaptability. So it is helping us in case of the adaptability with nature, and that's how we can end this question. I hope you got the clarity. That's how we need to focus. Now moving forward to the next question. The next question is again open-ended question, 10 marker question, but it is asking about the 3 aspects. First it is saying the caste domination, then it is saying the factionalism, and then the political power. So factionalism, it is one of the we can say effect of the political power, and it may be as the effect of the caste domination. But just read this question and then try to think which is the key point among these 3, which is the key point, because the key point that you will choose is becoming the basis for your introduction. So see this question and then just tell me, according to you, what do you feel, what seems to you the key point among these? So the key point among these is the caste, because it is the caste only which may result into the political power domination, because the caste domination is something which lead to the political power, and then this political power, it may lead to the factionalism. Means because of the different point of view, because of the, like, what do we mean by the factionalism? Factionalism is a kind of term which is coming from the word faction. Faction means some sort of groups. So these are the small groups. So in a large political group, some group, because they are showing the resentment and they are showing the disagreement. So because of all these things, they started creating their own group, and when they started creating their own group, being part of a large group is called as what? Factionalism. So this is what that we have. Fine. Now as you know, like, see this question and just tell me, if you can tell me any anthropologist name, if you can tell me that anthropologist name, what that name would be related to the caste domination. Like, who's the person who studied about the caste domination, some sort of like a dominant caste, this concept. So it was being given by the M.N. Srinivas, where you know very well that Rampura village of the Mysore, Karnataka. So there he studied about the caste domination or dominant caste. So therefore, in terms of the introduction, what we need to do, we have to start with See, it's very important to understand the key point, because as soon as we will be understanding the key point, then we can relate from our side the introduction. Because among these three, which one is important, how to mention that. So here we are going to mention about the M.N. Srinivas and his studies about the dominant caste. Okay, so his study about the dominant caste, this is what we can do from our side. So once we are done with this fact, we can also mention about the area like where he studied about this. As I told you, Rampura village, Karnataka. Now moving forward to the body part. The body part is really very difficult, because what to do in the body part? In the body part, either you can mention the dominant caste, they capture the panchayat, the cooperative, and because of that they were having the political power, and then because some other caste they also started emerging, then this is basically the factionalism. So what we are going to create, we can create a diagram like caste, dominance, then it is leading to, like, because of the caste dominance there is holding of panchayat, local resources, so as they are holding the panchayat, they are holding on the local resources as well as the economic plus socio-culture. So as a result, they started holding the political power. If there is any sort of disagreement or something, it may lead to factions. Fine. And who studied about the faction? So you can mention about the F.G. Bailey. You can mention about the contribution given by the F.G. Bailey regarding the factionalism, and that's how, with the help of this diagram, you can just show that it started from the casteism and it ended with the faction. So faction is the effect, caste is the cause, and political power is the way towards that. Fine. So try to add on these types of small diagram in a 10-marker question. They will help you to fetch more marks, because now you are making the work of the examiner easy. See, every single person in this world, they want easy work. They want the work which is convenient for them and which is less stressful. So if you are making the work of the examiner by providing them the information which is clearly visible, then you tend to get more marks. Fine. Okay, now in the conclusion. So in the conclusion, what could we do? You can just mention about that caste domination, it is not the end. So the end is the democratization. So we can mention something about the democratization, and like as I told you, this question, just tell me this question is from which unit? It is from the unit 3.2. Now 3.2 related to what? Indian anthropology. Which directive things I told you related to the Indian anthropology? Scheme name or any solution based program. So for the caste thing, we are not having any scheme, but one, we have reservation. Another thing like reservation to provide the representation. Another thing for this, we have the democracy. So democracy is something which is helping us to avoid the factionalism, as well as it is avoiding the caste dominance. Like now panchayat no more can hold on the position. If government is saying that this position is reserved for a specific caste, so you, even if you are powerful, even if you are dominant, still you cannot hold. So therefore in the conclusion, we are going to write down something about the democratization you can mention something about the democratization, and you can mention how it can help and in what way it is basically helping. Fine. So I hope you can understand the basic phenomena of the answer. Fine. Okay, moving forward to the next, regionalism and autonomy. If you have watched the first lecture of the paper 1 that I have taken, in the first lecture of the paper 1 I have mentioned that if there is any question which is having and in between, like this question and in between, in those types of question either we have to write the relation. So in the relation either similarity and dissimilarities, like the differences, or either we have to show the application and role of one for the other one. So just see this question and then tell me, is it going to use the first approach or the second approach? So for sure you can say it's going to like help us for the second approach. So the second approach, which is saying that we have to show that how regionalism, it is playing its role in having the autonomy. So this is what you need to tell. Now another thing you know very well, that this question may be from the tribal India. So for the tribal India, what I can do, either I can provide the simple meaning of the regionalism, but if I will try to mention the simple meaning of like if I will try to mention the simple meaning of this term or something, quite possible that it may not, like it may not look like very fancy or fancifying. Like regionalism is a very simple term, and if I am explaining the meaning of the regionalism in the introduction, so then my answer seems to be very generic and simple. So for that, what I can do, I can mention about an event. Means if you do remember what I said you to mention, either mention an example, any ministry related thing, or any data. So quite possible there would be no data regarding this point, but I can start with the example. Example means what? I can start with the example where regionalism is demanding the autonomy, because people, they are doing so much regionalism, they are demanding the autonomy. I have numerous of examples for that. You can mention about Gorakhaland, you can mention about Bodo land, you can mention about Tulu land. Now the new demand is being asked regarding the Tulu area of the Karnataka, Kerala and the Tamil Nadu, Andhra. So that point, joint point. So therefore, in terms of the introduction, what you can do is, in the introduction, just mention about the example. Either like start with the example like Bodo land, where the regionalism as demand for the own region creating or posing a challenge for the government or the administration, formal administration. So this is what we can start. So here in terms of example, mention either about the Bodo land or either about the Gorakha land. Okay, so mention about it. Now in the body part, what we need to do, we just need to mention how or which kind of factor that are leading towards the regionalism. So see, your language could be one of the fact, and because of the language, maybe there may be regionalism. Other than the language, there may be a separate demand, like having the political power. Because of the political power also, you may demand for a separate region. For administrative purposes, like if you do remember during the 2014, the Telangana got separated from the Andhra Pradesh. The reason, because they were demanding for the separate developmental things or separate developmental say in the different programs. Fine. So here you can mention about the administrative purposes. Fine. So this is what you can mention, that these are the reason because of this regionalism is happening. And as a regionalism, like regionalism is the cause so regionalism is the cause and autonomy, then demand for the autonomy is the effect. If any of the student they are done with the PYQs, then this was the repeated PYQ. Fine. Now let's mention something about the conclusion. Now see what we have done. We have done and specified that what could be in the conclusion for the tribal India. Here either we have to mention about the developmental program, or we have to mention about something like any scheme, something that is being given by the government. So for that, what we can do here, to mention this kind of situation, we have what? We have our constitutional provision. So what we need to mention in the conclusion? Constitutional provision. Or if not constitutional provisions, I have to mention about some of the details about the 6th schedule or the 5th schedule. So mention 5th or 6th schedule. This is what you need to do and you are done. I hope you are able to understand how to deal. See, if you will do the question in this way, you would be able to just have this performa, and then based upon the performa, you can deal with the question paper. Now see next one. Verrier Elwin philosophy with respect to the Arunachal Pradesh. Now this question, it is very static. If you know about the Verrier Elwin, if you know about his study, only then you can mention about it. Now they have created this question very specific by mentioning the state name as well. So you can simply mention about the Verrier Elwin, no need to, like if Arunachal Pradesh was not there, and you can deal with this question in the generic form. But now here, now because this is not an open-ended question, this is a factual question, so there is no need to think much about it, like what to mention in the introduction. You just need to give that Verrier Elwin and his policy stance, and he said that we need to have the philosophy of NEFA, Northeast Frontier. So according to that, they are saying that we need to have the NEFA, and the Nehru ji, he also forwarded the same. So the Verrier Elwin provided a basic theme, and for that we need to study about the NEFA. So just in the introduction mention about the Verrier Elwin and something about the NEFA, and it would be better that if we are mentioning about his book. So Verrier Elwin, he mentioned a philosophy and the book name where he was giving about his NEFA scheme. So he said that when you are having the philosophies, the philosophy is for the NEFA, and he mentioned that book around 1957, and in that book he gave the basic details. So Verrier Elwin, he was very much prominent person, and Nehruji included the same in the Nehru Accord. And they also said that we need to have a pacification, means we need to pacify in the conflict like situation. So all these points we have to mention. So as I told you, if you know about it, only then you can deal with this question, otherwise it's going to be difficult to deal with this question. So he said that we need to pacify. For the pacification, what we need to do? He was saying that we need to focus, we need to emphasize on the forest, on the land, on the hill, and he was also saying that we need to protect their frontier. And when we are saying their frontier, we are not talking about the boundary land, we were talking about their cultural boundaries. So this is something that he specified. So in the body part, mention the basic details. Okay, and then in the conclusion, okay, so in the conclusion, just mention about like what we can do from our side. So the details given by him is being called as proactive generalization. Means you are generalizing but proactively, and his model, like this is what we have to explain in the conclusion, that his proactive generalization helping the you. Okay, so this is what you need to mention regarding the Verrier Elwin. I hope you can understand. Now moving forward to the next question, that is characteristics and the communication between the little and the great tradition. So the little and the great tradition, like what to do in the introduction, either I need to mention little or great. This is a kind of a term which seems to be very ambiguous, because those who are not from the anthropology background, it would be difficult for them to understand. So in such type of question, what we need to do, as you know, this question is from Indian anthropology, and here what we basically specify, we need to specify about civilization. Why? Because we have mentioned civilization is nothing but an interplay of little and the great tradition. So it would be better if I explain the midway path, like little tradition को भी बुरा ना लगे, great को भी बुरा ना लगे, that you are not explaining the great only and not the little, you are just explaining the civilization, which is nothing but an interplay of little and great tradition, and then afterward explain the meaning of the little and great tradition. So this is what we need to do. Now they are not asking us to explain about the differences, they just wanted us to explain about the communication and the basic characteristics about it. Fine. So for that, what we are going to do, so first we are going to explain about the name of the Robert Redfield, because he was the person was related to the little and great tradition. So in the introduction, mention about the Robert Redfield. See, you need to remember that who was the person, that was like, if you will try to remember that much, तो वो इतना भी नहीं होगा. What you need to do, just have one specific name for each unit, for each part. So for example, for civilization we have so many. Merritt have explained about the civilization, the Robert Redfield have explained about civilization, D.N. Mazumdar explained about it. But what we need to do, we need to be very much aware of one prominent person. So here the Robert Redfield explained about the civilization, and civilization is nothing but the interplay. So in the introduction we are going to mention the same. Now talking about the body part. So in the body part we have to explain about the characteristics as well as the communication between these. So what we can do, we can just explain about the basic characteristics of the little tradition and the characteristics of the great tradition. Fine. So this is what you need to do from your side. Once you are done with the characteristics, they are very simple, local, and they are folklore, these and that. Fine. Other thing, most important, you have to add on the case studies. If not case studies, then example as much as you can. Like mention about the Saluno, the Raksha Bandhan form, and mention about the Sorathi Puja, mention about the Govardhan or Gobardhan Puja. Fine. So mention about all these things. Now in the conclusion part, just talk about that there is some sort of like in terms of the little and great tradition, there is civilization, how it can continue, the significance of tradition. Okay, just mention about it. Fine, done. Okay, moving forward to the next question, and now here we are starting up with the process which seems to be difficult one, where we have to focus that approach and the demand. See this question, as I told you, the basic exercise you need to do, you need to focus upon each and every point and then determine which is the key point, because you will take the key point, and as you will take the key point, you will explain the introduction. See, discuss the paleoanthropological significance of Siwaliks of India. Fine. So I have to explain something from paleoanthropological approach. and I have to explain what? Siwalik of India. It means my one key point could be Siwalik of India. Next, giving its subdivision, it means I have to focus upon the Siwalik and I have to give the anthropological perspective, but I have to explain then subdivision created by the different anthropologists. Either I have to focus upon the fossil primate fauna and major primate fossil localities. So what you can derive that this is a pure factual question. Pure factual question. If you know, you can attempt it. If you don't know, you won't be able to attempt it. So therefore, what you need to do, you have to first explain about the basic introduction. Now, what to mention in this question? So in terms of the introduction, you should mention about the Siwalik belt. Means you have to mention about the subdivision of their taxonomy. You have to talk about the time period and the basic way how the Siwalik region it was being studied. So for that, what you can do? So here you can mention the name of the Levi's, and related to him you can give the context of the Siwalik region. This is what you can do in the introduction. It would be simple introduction. Now in the body part, it's a 20 marker question. See, for a 20 marker question, how many things I have to explain, and the things I have to explain, I will create headings according to them only. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to explain about significance of what? Of Siwalik of India, means how Siwalik of India contributed. So my heading, as I told you, it should be as per the demand of the question. So my first heading should be significance of Siwalik found in India for anthropological studies. Fine. So this is what you need to do. This is the first point. And here you are going to mention some of the important, like how it help us to know their life system, how it help us to know about their significance, some of the studies that yes, early men they were also found in India, like how it help us to mention about the Ramapithecus, Siwapithecus, the kind of Dryopithecus. So this is what you can mention. Now second one, second heading, like what you can do, you can just divide 5 marks for this, 5 for subdivision, 5 for fauna, and 5 for the fossil. This is what I have to explain. Now second part, what I need to explain is the subdivision. Subdivisions regarding the Siwalik of India. So while explaining about the subdivision, I have to explain about the if you do remember the late Miocene hominids. So in the subdivision you would be explaining about the late Miocene hominid. And then you can focus. Now third one, explain about the fossil primate fauna. I mean during their time period, what kind of fossil like primates they were having, what was the fauna during that time period. Like you just like explain about the ape human phylogeny, that would be sufficient to mention. So ape and human phylogeny, fine. And then we have next one, and the next was the primate fossil. Okay, so just mention about the primate fossil. So here you just need to talk about the Miocene fossil. like Dryopithecus, the Dryopithecus, the Ramapithecus, like Gigantopithecus. So just mention about them, Miocene fossils, and you are done. And then next one is in terms of the conclusion. As I told you, just mention about the significance of these studies so that we can study more about the dietary component, the living standard, the living way, about the Miocene people. So here just mention about the significance. That should be the basic way about explaining this part. I hope you can understand. And in the online, are you able to understand? Are you able to derive it? And yes? Okay, now moving forward to the next part, delineate the major features of the SS Sarkar classification of Indian population. Was his classification better than the Risley? And it's a 15-marker question. So what I need to do, first they want me to explain the major feature of SS Sarkar classification, and they are keeping SS Sarkar in the circle, and then they want me to explain with the Risley. It means the key point in this is the SS Sarkar classification, or about the SS Sarkar, and also about the Indian population. So now it depends upon me. Either I can explain about the basic theme of the ethnic and linguistic element, if not linguistic but the racial element of the Indian population, and here I can give the context of the SS Sarkar. Then my first heading should be like in terms of the introduction, where and in what way or in what stream I need to focus the introduction. So in terms of the introduction, first I have to here explain about the racial or ethnic element. Fine. Then there is body part. In the body part, mention about the SS Sarkar, like basic introduction of SS Sarkar. And after the basic introduction, you mention about, like, this is the SS Sarkar classification. It should be first heading. Then the features of this, it should be the second heading. And after the features, just like explain about the Risley classification, like small basic introduction, and then differences between SS Sarkar and Risley's classification. Fine. So this is what you need to do. Now next part in terms of conclusion. Now in terms of the conclusion, like what we can mention, in terms of the conclusion we just need to mention like how the, like, okay, one more important point. When you are explaining the differences between SS Sarkar and Risley classification, kindly keep those normal point. Like you have to mention the nasal index, the orbito nasal index. Fine. Then the cephalic index. Keep those points while comparing it, otherwise it's going to be difficult, like on which point we have to compare. Then based upon this, like as we are mentioning about the SS Sarkar, so SS Sarkar, he gave the classification not based upon the actual autonomy but based upon the internal autonomy, like you have ABO group system, you have RH group system. So he was also talking about the internal autonomy, and based upon that he classified the Indian population, whereas the Risley, he just took some of the actual format and then he compared it. Fine. Now in terms of the conclusion, what you need to do? In terms of the conclusion, we just need to mention the significance of racial classification. Just be very generic and just mention about it. Okay, so this is what you need to do. Fine. Okay, now moving forward to the next part. Evaluate the impact of the Christianity on the scheduled tribe societies of the Northeast India. See, this question is again and again asked every single year. Every single year this question is being asked. Now what you can do is just wait for a while. Okay, now what we have to do is very simple, straightforward question. Here we just need to explain about the Christianity on the scheduled tribe society of the Northeast India. This is what we need to do. Now, what we need to do in the introduction, we just need to mention the situation of the scheduled tribe in the introduction regarding their social, cultural, such kind of things. So in the introduction, mention about the percentage of the total population the scheduled tribe is holding. Like here you can mention that they are around 8% of the Indian population, and you can mention about the situation of the tribes. Fine. Now in the body part, here you need to provide some introduction about Christianity. Like Christianity is the largest following religion in the world. It is the largest one. And in case of the India, how much percentage of India is getting influenced out of it? Fine. So here just and one more thing you need to mention, that the growth rate for the Christianity, that also you need to mention. So here give the basic introduction about the Christianity. See, as I told you, I am not discussing the model answer. In today's lecture, I am only telling you the approach. For model answer, I will be taking up another one more session. Fine. So don't expect that here I would be explaining the details. For that, I am going to have a separate lecture where I will be providing the PDF of the model answer also. Fine. Okay. So first mention about the Christianity. So for that, mention about the percentage shared, mention about the percentage growth. Okay. Now another point, impact. So because I have to explain about the impact, so I have to talk about the two aspects. One is the positive impact, one is the negative impact. Fine. So both are there. Now let me just give you like one more thing here. Try to add on as many case studies as you can. Like for example, the Konyank tribe. This is a kind of a northeastern tribe. So these are called as the headhunter. So Christian people handed over the Bible to them, and then based upon the Bible, and when they converted to the Christianity, then the people of the Konyank tribe, then they stop hunting the head. Otherwise they used to hunt the head like a sniper. So they used to see that this person is from the different tribe, and they used to just hunt it and cut their head, and they keep the head as like a trophy in their hut. So when the Christian people, they came there and they asked them that not to do the violence, every single person is the child of the God and we should have that harmony, these and that. So then they changed themselves. Another negative impact which is there, that they are converting based upon, like they are targeting the lower caste people, they are targeting the scheduled people, and then they are giving them money, they are giving them lucrative offers, and they are leading some superstition based things. So write down all those negative impact here. Fine. Also mention about the basic case studies of the northeastern states, and then at last the conclusion. Now what to mention in the conclusion? So in the conclusion, we just need to mention that we need to provide authenticity and originality to the tribes, and we need to preserve the tribe in the actual form, and therefore we should focus upon the development of the tribes without interfering their cultural things. Fine. So this is what we need to mention, that here we need to mention the originality of tribe or of tribes culture while keeping developmental program intact. Fine. So this is what we have. Now next 4. Describe the distinctive feature and the distribution of the Upper Paleolithic of India. So very simple question, very straightforward question as well. As I told you, mostly archaeology question, they are going to be fact based question, and because it's a fact based question, very simple. I don't think I need to explain again. What you need to do, just start with the simple introduction with the time period of the Upper Paleolithic, and then they are asking you distinct feature as well as distribution. So what are the requirement for this question? So the requirement for this question is you have to talk about the sites. How you can mention the sites? Create the picture of a map, and then you need to tell the features. What are the features during that time period? So you have to prepare the headings. So you have mentioned the sites, then talk about their culture, talk about their tool, technique, and mention about their trade. If they were doing any trade, what was the trade situation? Mention about their dietary, I mean how their economy is being developed there, and then mention about something about their entertainment. Fine. Other than this, mention about their art, architecture, art and painting, what we can mention. So when you are mentioning tools, you have to add on the diagram, and when you are mentioning the site, you again have to add on the map and pinpoint the area. This is what you need to do, and the conclusion about the significance of the study. Just mention about the significance of the study and you are done. Fine. So this is what you can understand. Okay. Now moving forward to the next part. Examine the environmental, first point, biocultural, second point, factors that are influencing the health of the tribes of India. It means key point is the tribes, and then tribes health. Means in this question I have to explain about the cause and effect. As I told you, the tribal questions, they are more or less need to focus upon the example, any government schemes or any sort of fact. So for this question, what I can do, I can just either mention about the budget details, about the health expenditure, or either I can use the data of the health spending of the government on the health infrastructure for the tribal people and all that I can use for any point to mention the cause. So this question is about the cause and effect. Fine. So I am going to focus upon that only. So let's just mention about the basic introduction. In the basic introduction, I am going to explain about the tribe, and I will be mentioning about some of the people also who studied about it. So I can mention about the T. Basu. I can also mention about the Verrier Elwin. Verrier Elwin, he was a very prominent person who provided ethnographic health based data for the tribal people. So I will be using that for the body part. Here in the introduction, I would be mentioning about the tribal situation. So where in terms of the census data, in terms of the budget data. I have to provide some of the details now in the body part. So in the body part, I have to explain about the situation of the health. So first I would be explaining like what are the factors influencing the health. So I would be mentioning the health situation, one heading, health situation among Indian tribes. Fine, so first I will be explaining this. Then once we are done with the health situation among the Indian tribe, then I have to explain environmental and biocultural factor. Okay, so first environmental factor, then biocultural factor. I will be explaining this. Environmental factors that are impacting the health, it is the kind of climate change and the dependency upon the nature. For that you have to mention about some sort of examples, like for example the Vedanta, they introduced their mining project in the Niyamgiri hills, and because of that the Niyamgiri people, their trees, everything, there is dust everywhere. They said that कि because of that उनको बहुत airborne disease होने लगी है, उनका गला खराब रहता है. Other than this, they were also saying that because of the chemical जो हवा में घुल रहा है, other than this जो water में घुल रहा है, that is also impacting them. So based upon this fact, you can understand that climate change is happening and their dependency on the environment, that is also again causing some factors. So you have to mention these factors. Other than this, you have to also explain about the biocultural factor. Bioculture means their way of living. So for example, now we living in Delhi, we know what is like we would be avoiding using the open pond water. Reason, because we know there is like, would you, if I am giving you any chance, would you like to drink the Yamuna water? Not at all, you won't do that. But those people, they are drinking the local river water because it's part of their living, that they are dependent upon the river for the water, for the river for the irrigation, but they don't know, like they need to change their way. But again, their biocultural way, their way of the way of living, for example, they are eating some food uncooked, and that uncooked food, uncooked fruits, these and that, so that's again create a sort of problem. So here we have to mention about as many examples as can about the tribal life, and then in the conclusion, and don't worry for that, I will be providing you points as well. We'll be having next series of lecture for the model answer, so don't worry for that. I would be providing you the model answer. Okay, so here while explaining all this, so mention about the anthropologist like K.S. Thakur, like Verrier Elwin. Okay, mention about them, and in the conclusion mention about the scheme, government scheme that can help to tackle the situation. Okay, so this is what we can do. Now moving forward to the next part, highlight the significance contribution of B.S. Guha, Iravati Karve, S.R.K. Chopra to the Indian anthropology. Now, so B.S. Guha, he provided about the racial, Iravati Karve explained about the kinship mechanism, kinship zone, kinship organization, and the S.R.K. Chopra, who talked about some sort of Indian diversity. So just gave the explanation about the all these, like SK Chopra also explain about Siwalik fossils, so just mention about it. It's a very like straightforward factual question, 15 marker question, 3 part, 5 and 5. Now what to mention in the introduction? If you will mention about 1, 2 are left and you cannot do this discrimination, so it would be better if you are mentioning in the introduction the role of anthropologist or Indologist. So just mention about the role of Indologist, or if you don't want to mention this, then just talk about when the Indologist and their studies they started getting recognition. So recognition to the work of Indologist. Okay, so this is what you need to do. Now what you need to do in the body part, so in the body part just mention about their role. So the role of B.S. Guha, 1, 2 and 3, and you are done. And in the conclusion just mention about how their studies benefited. So the benefit of or application of studies. Fine, so this is what you need to do and how you are going to deal with it. Okay, so next, moving forward to the next part, discuss the role of NGOs in the socio-economic and the political development of weaker section and explain how they facilitate other stakeholders. So it's a 20 marker question. The focus is towards the NGO and in terms of socio-economic and political development, and next part is how they facilitate the other stakeholder. So I would be explaining 15 for this and 5 for this. This is the most important exercise that you need to do whenever you are writing something. So like what you can do here, like in the introduction you just mention about the NGOs. So it would be better if you are mentioning the role of NGOs. Fine. Now in the body part, you have to talk about the role of NGO in the explanation label, and you have to explain the socio-economic and the political development of the weaker section because of this. So you have to talk about the functions of NGO. So first you have to explain about the functions of NGO. When you have explained about the functions of NGO, then you are going to explain the function, and then because of the function, benefit, and then the benefit in terms of monetary benefit, basically socio-economic, as well as their political development, like how and in what way in those areas those people they are aware of their right. So here you can add on the data of voting right. Fine, like NGO are helping for that. Data of the COVID-19, how NGOs they helped during that time period. Now data of the flood-like situation, how the NGOs and which NGOs they are working and helping for that. So this is what you need to do. Now in the conclusion, what you need to do, you just need to mention that government cannot do everything, so therefore they need someone. So NGO they convert entitlement into the outcome, and they are providing us information as well as co-production. So this is what you need to mention, the role of. So here you can mention the achievement of NGOs. Fine, so this is what you need to do in terms of the basic explanation. I hope you all are able to understand the approach, and for the model answer we are going to have the next session. Okay, So here you can mention about the Gram Vikas, you can mention about the Barefoot College, the MKKSS, the Pradhan, the Seva. There are n number of the NGOs available. Now moving forward, trace the history. So they want us to explain something from the polity and describe the methods of formulating the list of OBCs both at the state as well as the national level. Very factual question, but demanding something that is going to have complete overlapping mentioned in the Lakshmikant, the complete procedure of the OBCs and the Mandal Commission and everything, that percentage of 27% and all, everything is mentioned there. So what you need to do, you just need to focus upon the core demand. So how we can start with the basic introduction. So the basic introduction, it should include explaining about the caste based reservation and the role of constitution. This is what you need to do. In the introduction, just mentioning about the constitution, provisions and the reservation. Fine. Then here the body part. So in the body part, then you have to explain the procedure and the method. So here you have to explain about the Mandal Commission. Here you have to explain about the creamy layer concept. I mean, here you need to do that. Fine. And at the conclusion, one more thing. This question, it also require you to mention some data, facts and figure. Okay. Now mentioning about the conclusion part. So in the conclusion, what we can do, we can mention the benefit arising out of it. Fine. So this is what we need to do. Now mentioning upon the next part, identify the contemporary limitation in the process of the tribal development. What are the limitations? Means challenges. Fine. So here we have to focus upon the limitations of what? Of the tribal development. How can anthropological knowledge contribute in this process? Means how anthropological studies, means the significance of anthropological studies for tribals, because we are studying about the tribes, then we are we get to know about them, then we can focus as well as we can know their demand, their need, and we can focus for the solution part. So this is what we have to focus for this question. Fine. Okay, now let's moving forward. What to mention in the introduction? Again, this question also require you to mention the situation of tribes. So mention the tribal situation. Fine. Like their literacy rate, like their mortality rate, fine. So based upon today's lecture, based upon the today's approach, you can collect the data. If not collect the data, you can take the learning out of it. The learning is this, that if you are studying about the tribal India, then you need to collect these data. And if you are not having these data, it's going to be difficult for you to deal with such kind of question. So if you are doing static work, well and good, but the kind of learning that you can take from today's discussion is that we require examples for the tribal situation, we require the budget data for the tribes, we require percentage like their literacy rate, their total percentage contribution, their fertility rate, their mortality rate. We should gather these type of data while preparing, so that in future you will be having your mains in the year 2026, you can deal. Fine. So this is the kind of learning you need to take from the today's lecture. Now what we need to mention in the body part. In the body part, we just need to first explain about the challenges for the tribal, then steps for tribal development, okay, then we need to have the steps for the tribal development, and then the role of or significance of anthropological studies. Okay, and in the conclusion part, just again mention the achievement of tribal study. Okay, so this is what you need to do. I hope you can understand. Fine. Next, moving, write short note on the following in about 150 word. Section B. The first point is impact of the urbanization and the industrialization on what? On the tribal community. So intro is going to be very simple. I will be explaining about the tribes. In the body part, directly the impact. I will also mention the diagram, some of the examples, and like it's a 10-mark question, you can also avoid the conclusion because it's a direct and open-ended question. But if you really want to mention, then you can mention that this urbanization and industrialization helping us to assimilate the tribes into the mainstream society. I mean, that's how it is helping us to assimilate them. For this, we can also give the verdict of the Khaka committee. Not only this, like we can also take the example of the Tribes India, the logo government is having, and government is having so many tribal heart or something where tribal people, they can offer their product. We can also take the example of the Honorable Prime Minister. He gave Soharai painting, that's a tribal art, to the Russian president. So that's also promotion of the Indian that we can consider it is the promotion of the industrialization and impact of the industrialization. Now as you can understand, there's Hakki Pikki community created their hair oil. That is also part of the industrialization only, when they are getting aware of their things. Fine. Now next, moving forward, taxonomic status of Ramapithecus in the light of the Ramapithecus controversy. Every single year questions are coming from here. It's a very factual and direct question. So for this question, what you need to do, you just need to mention their representation. You have to mention about the Miocene, like in the introduction what you can mention about the Miocene, apes. Then in the body part, you can mention about the phylogenetic status of Ramapithecus, and then some points of debate or some sort of differences between Ramapithecus and Siwaliks. Fine. And in the conclusion, I mean in this question you can really avoid the conclusion. I would ask you to avoid, because this question is factual and you have to mention so many things. You even need to create the diagram for the phylogenetic status. I mean, it's a very static question, and like I don't feel any of the person would feel any sort of difficulty while writing. Now can you notice one thing in this paper? All questions, they are coming from the syllabus only. In the paper 1 we found something unusual, 1 or 2 questions, but in the paper 2 till now we found that each and every question is from the syllabus only. Now what was the challenge? Challenge was to complete it on the time, because it was really very lengthy paper. Fine. Next, tribalism and pseudo-tribalism. As you know, what I told you, that if there is and in between, so you need to show the role of something for the other. So what I can do in the introduction? For the introduction, I have to mention about the tribalism. I mean, why people or the like different community people, they are changing into the tribes, how they are changing and in what way they are changing. Now next part, the body part. Next part in the body part, I have to explain the process of pseudo-tribalism. I mean, how you can exercise the pseudo-tribalism when you just want to have the status of tribe, when you are even changing your caste to look like a tribe just to get the reservation benefit. That's why there is pseudo-tribalism, na? So you have to mention the process. Actually, for the process, you are just mentioning about the reasons. And then mention as many case studies and example as you can. Example of the Andhra Pradesh. Fine. So these types of example. After that, you can mention the conclusion. Conclusion that will show the effect of this. Means we need to curtail this, otherwise the actual scheduled tribe people, they won't be able to get the benefit. Fine. Okay. Now next, Varnashram and its contemporary relevance. Very nice, good, sufficient type of question. So for this question, in the introduction, mention about the Indian social system. Now in the body part, mention the stages of Varnashram. Once you have mentioned the stages, prepare the whole full-fledged diagram, and while mentioning the stages, write down the contemporary relevance. Mention some of the example, like recently the Mukesh Ambani advisor, he took the like Vanaprastha. Mention some of the examples of the Mahakumbh, like during the Mahakumbh there was one actress, Mamta Kulkarni, she also took the leave the stardom behind and she took the Vanaprastha or Sannyasa. So likewise you can take some sort of examples and you can show the relevance, contemporary relevance regarding that. Fine. Now next part in terms of the conclusion. So like, because we are mentioning the contemporary relevance, so there is no need to mention the conclusion, because contemporary relevance in itself can explain about it. Fine. So in terms of contemporary relevance, we can also mention some of the other dimensions, like we can mention about the constitutional equality. Like we can also mention about the caste-based discrimination. As well as the prohibition or restriction that have been imposed due to the caste. Fine. Okay. Next, Lothal dockyard and the international trade relation. So what we need to do in terms of the introduction, we have to talk about the sites. Fine. I mean, how many sites we have related to the Indus Valley civilization. We have to just give some details about the Indus Valley civilization. Then in the body part, we have to explain about international trade relation and then the Lothal dockyard. So first we have to explain about the Lothal. What were the feature of the Lothal? What are the things found at Lothal? Fine. And we also need to create a map to just pinpoint the site, and then role for the international trade relation. So for that, then we have to mention about the dockyard and the role of the dockyard. So here we can also give the like when explaining about it, we can also give the reference of the S.R. Rao, because he was the person who gave the details about the Lothal dockyard. He was basically the person who gave the basic detail. So like for this question, there is no need to mention about the conclusion, but if you really want to mention, so you can mention about the details about the maritime trade relation. So maritime trade relation, they are helping to maintain that. Fine. So I hope this is something that you can understand. This is the part related to this segment. Fine. I hope you can understand it. Now moving forward, next part. The village was not merely a place where people lived. It had a design in which were reflected the basic value of Indian civilization. Who said this? And then elaborate. So this statement, like this is being explained and how it is being specified. So this statement, it has been explained by the S.C. Dubey. He characterized about the Indian villages, and it also explained about the definition that Metcalfe he had explained. So just mention about the S.C. Dubey, like in the introduction, mention about the S.C. Dubey and the Charles Metcalfe. Fine. Then in the body part, explain about basic meaning and definition of the village. I mean, what are the basic feature of the village? You can, like while explaining about the basic feature of the village, mention the statement given by the Louis Dumont, like three-way structure he said to explain about the village. So mention about that. Other than this, also mention about the statement given by the Henri Betley about the villages. Once you have done that, then just explain the context of the Indian villages as a separate heading. Context of the Indian villages as a separate heading. Mention about it. Just give some of the example and you are done. Fine. Now, what we can do in the conclusion? In the conclusion, we need to mention the significance of the villages. Although villages, they are closed economy, although they are isolated one, but what is the significance? Here, when you are mentioning about the village, you can also give the examples, like the Madhapur village of the Gujarat, like the Pansari village of the Gujarat, like you can mention the Chitkul village, the India's last village, and you can also mention about the Hivde Bazaar. You can also mention about the Mathur village of Karnataka. So these will provide the weightage to your answer. Fine. What are those things related to those villages will be providing in the model answer. Fine. Next, discuss the rising ethnic conflict in India. So they want us to explain the rising ethnic conflict. So I can explain something about ethnic conflict and propose some possible remedial measures. So very direct, simple question, but there are so many points to write down. So I would be dividing it 8 and 7. Fine. And then let's explain about the basic introduction first. So in the introduction, what I can do, as I told you, I can start with any example. So I would be explaining the ethnic conflict recently that happened in case of the Kuki Metis conflict. So I can explain about the Kuki and the Metis conflict. Fine. Then in the body part, I would be giving simple basic detail of the word ethnic and the ethnic conflict. Then I would be explaining the causes for the ethnic conflict and some examples that already had happened. So one I had given here, other example we are going to add on there, like related to the Naga and the Manipur and all these things. Fine. And then we are going to mention some remedial measures. Fine. While explaining about the ethnic conflict in terms of a basic meaning, here we have to give the verdict about the ethnic relations, like ethnicity, ethnic conflict. What are the two type of conflict? Like sometimes language becoming the reason for that, sometime otherwise. Fine. Like Bodo, non-Bodo tension, the Naga autonomy. So we have to mention about all these remedial measures. Here we can talk about the constitutional provisions. Okay, so these are what we have to mention. And next is in terms of conclusion. So in the conclusion, we are going to mention the, like we have already mentioned the remedial measures, we have already mentioned the impact out of it. Here we just need to mention the representation of the conflict in outer world. Fine, so this is what you need to do. Now moving next, critically evaluate the concept of nation state. So unit 8.2, this is very unusual to see a question from the unit 8.2. Describe its impact on the indigenous society, but this is also not having the complete touch of that part. So here first we are going to mention some details of the Benedict and Anderson, and then we are going to explain about the nation state concept, like how the nation is connected with the state, and then we are going to see their impact on the indigenous society. Fine. So here we are going to explain about the territorialization, why it is important to codify the territories. Then we are also going to mention about the missionization, like there is hominization, pluralism, all these points we are going to explain here. Fine. Okay. Now moving forward to the next part, describe the nature of traditional socio-economic interdependence among the Toda, Kota, Kurumba and Irula tribe. I mean, they want us to be specific. Where? About the Nilgiri hills. Highlight the changes occurring in these interrelationship. Means what? They want us to explain about the nature of the traditional socio-economic interdependence among these tribes. Another thing, they also want us to explain the tribes to be specific. So first of all, in the introduction, we need to be general, and while explaining the introduction, we are going to explain about the traditional exchange economy or ecology. Means one tribe is related to the other tribe and they are having some sort of relationship, some sort of exchange. Now what we can explain in terms of the body. In body we just need to show some sort of interdependence. So here the heading is going to be interdependence. Before explaining about the interdependence, we have to mark the tribes in the map. So from this point, what we can derive? We can derive that marking in the map is very important. So whenever you are studying about the tribal India, then you need to see one map where you can mark the tribes, and it is very important. It is very important to mark the tribes. So once it like that's why I'm saying that that's why it is important to analyze the PYQs. So once, like, if after the analysis of this paper, it's okay, I'm going to provide you in the bullet format also the way how you can adopt it for the next year mains. Fine. So then you would be explaining about the interdependence, and then conclusion about the tribal ecology, significance of the tribal ecology. Okay, significance of the tribal ecology, this is what you need to do. Now next part, define the minority, elaborate the pattern of the linguistic and the religious minority in India. So it's a very simple question from the syllabus directly. So directly start with the constitutional provision. Like our constitution haven't explained about the minority, haven't mentioned about the word minority. Word minority is mentioned, but no meaning of the word minority is mentioned in the constitution. This is what we have to mention. Then we are going to give the verdict of the article 29 and 30. So mention the constitution, mention the article 29 and 30. Then in the body part, explain the pattern. So for that, first explain the linguistic minority, their role, pattern, provisions, and then explain about the religious minority. So mention the religious minority types, representation and pattern. Okay, and then the conclusion. Safeguard provided to minorities. Fine. So this is the basic thing that we have. Now moving forward to the next part, what are the identifying criteria for the PVTGs? We know very well that earlier they were the PTGs, then this divided into the PVTGs, and we have the 4 criteria, that their population is declining, they were having the pre-agricultural economy. So those types of things that you have to mention. Now next part, examine their current status, PVTG's current status. Like you know very well that we have 75 PVTGs, and you can also give the name, like you can also mention that Odisha is the state having the largest PVTGs, around 13, and you have to mention about their distribution. So they want us to be factually aware of the data about the PVTGs. So here you have to mention the Indian map. So the kind of thing that from the map, like from the paper, what you can derive is that when you are preparing for your tribal India, you should be aware of like a basic idea, like which state includes the tribes, how many tribes, and then you also know that which states are there which includes the PVTGs, 75 PVTGs, so that you will get the clarity and you can attempt the question. So that's why it is important to analyze the PYQs, because we get to know the requirement of the UPSC, and then we can direct our preparation in that particular stream. I hope you are getting my point. So that's what it is important. Fine. Okay, now what we need to do, so the basic introduction, it should include identifying criteria for PVTGs. So in the introduction, explain about the PVTGs. Then in the body part, criteria. So here we can also mention about the Khaka committee, some of the data. We can also mention the data of the budget. We can also mention the data of the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, or the CSO. So criteria for the PVTGs, So mention about the 4 criteria as well as mention about the process, how PVTGs are determined, like from the PTGs, primitive tribal groups, how it changes into the, like during the 2006, what is the role of the Ministry of Home Affairs, PVTGs, everything. Mention about the Ministry of Home Affairs and PVTGs. Fine. And then conclusion. Like when you are talking about the distribution, na, prepare the map here. And then mention about the distribution 75 and state wise also. This is how you need to do. Now in the conclusion part, we just need to mention any governmental effort, schemes or effort that benefited them. Okay, so this is what we need to do. I hope you can understand. Now next, what are the different types of the caste mobility in India? Highlight the various factors responsible for it. So in the introduction, first mention the caste system. You can mention any name. You can mention about the M.N. Srinivas because he also gave the caste details. You can mention about the Louis Dumont, Henri Betelet. You can mention anyone, S.C. Dubé also. You can mention accordingly. But then in the body part, you have to mention about the types of caste mobility. How caste they are getting mobilized. So how they are with the help of the Sanskritization. So in which we have to mention the ways. Education, reservation, economic upliftment, political upliftment. There are so many reasons. Based upon that, the caste is being mobilized. Fine. And what are the basic factors responsible for it? So here we need to mention the factors, like the ways basically are the factor responsible for it, and then we need to provide the detail. Now in terms of the conclusion, we need to talk about that the kind of, like here when we have to mention the factors, now we are going to explain the effect also, effect related to this way or effect related to this part. Okay, that's also we have to explain. Now in the conclusion, what we need to do, in the conclusion we are going to deal with the point like where caste leading to discrimination and some schemes of government like panchayat based reservation, like reservation in the education, like socio-economic upliftment. So talk about those schemes in the conclusion. Fine. Now moving forward, elucidate the role of demographic and social factor for the population growth in India. So in the introduction, start with the population data. You can mention the UNFPA data because we are not having census data. Then in the body part, first explain the situation of population in India in terms of number, situation of population. Then mention about the the role and the factors like demographic factor, and the social factor. Mention about all the factors, like religion is one of the reason, the demand for a male child is also one of the reason, the illiteracy is one of the reason. So there are so many factors, positively, negatively. We are going to mention both positive as well as negative in today's time period. Like Nikhil Kamath, he said that I don't want to spend some year of my life just to nurture a child. I just want to live a free life. means there are two groups in the like Mumbai, in the Bangalore, the couples, they are happy to be the to be the parents of pet, like they are happy to be pet parents. They don't want a child because child bringing some sort of responsibilities. So that's what positively, negatively, there are so many factors which are impacting it. So you can mention literacy, education, late marriages, early marriages. You can mention n number of the reason here. Now let's talk about the conclusion part. So in the conclusion part, what we need to do, we need to talk about the demographic effect of the population. So here we have to mention about the demographic effect of the population. Now moving forward to the next question, basically the last question, concept, critically examine the concept of scheduled tribe and mention the limitation of the administration criteria. Again, similar question on the line of the OBC's criteria and similar based upon the PVTG's criteria. So like it depends, you are attempting the PVTG's wala question or not. Now here what we need to do in the introduction, we just need to explain about the scheduled tribes, and we have to explain about the article 342. Mention about the article 342 or mention about the tribe and the body part. So in the body part we need to explain the concept of scheduled tribe. I mean, what is the criteria, process, like some sort of things related to their lifestyle, their culture, their situation, the criteria. Fine. And then we have to explain the challenges or the limitation. About classification or status. Fine. And in the conclusion, we have to talk about the solution part, basically how to uplift the tribals and assimilate into mainstream. Into mainstream society. Fine. So this is what we need to do, and that's how we are done with the basic analysis of the paper. Now let's derive some of the conclusion out of it. So the conclusion that we can derive from the analysis. So first let's talk about the Indian anthropology. Okay, so for Indian anthropology, the first point that you can derive is you need to collect recent updation for village examples, because we found such questions. Second, collect data plus information for population studies. Then also focus on SCs, OBCs, method and process. Collect some schemes for Indian population developmental programs. Fine. Next, something for the tribal India. First, focus on map for tribes for PVTGs. Then collect tribals situation data like their health, their literacy, their socio-economic, next collect developmental schemes for tribals. So focus upon all these concepts while studying about your anthropology if you are focusing for the year 2026. And if you want this approach based PDF, there is one Google form available in the description box. You can fill that box, and in the reason just like there is one icon which is saying that what particular inquiry you are having. So for that, mention there that you need the analysis based PDF. So I will be providing you that PDF. Fine. So thank you so much for today. I hope you have got the basic view how you need to approach. See, it is not all about that we should know what to write in the question, but we should know what to study if you are focusing for the next year. So these are the things that we have derived from here. For the archaeology, you know that you need to be factually correct and you need to know the fact. Fine. Okay, so thank you so much. हाँ, YouTube stream भी बंद कर.